Today we're going to be getting you set up to use CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a variant or fork of MicroPython. It's supported by Adafruit and it maintains most of the same functionality with a few additions that make it easier to get started. So as we can see just from the picture on the Adafruit website, it isn't limited to one particular type of microcontroller. It runs on a bunch of these. We have a bunch of these in the classroom, so it's pretty flexible about basic layouts. It doesn't work on every microcontroller, but it's starting to become increasingly more supported. So the first step through their tutorial, there's the basics, FAQ, that sort of thing. First step is to install the Mu editor. Mu is the program that we're going to be using to actually write our Python code. So the first step would be to just follow the link and download Mu. Pretty easy download button. And then just download the version that is right for you. So once you have that on your computer, I'm just going to bring it up on mine really quick. It says it can't find a CircuitPython attached device. That's because we haven't set it up yet, so no problem there. Just hit OK, splash screen. Now, the first thing we have to do is under Mode. You can use Mu for CircuitPython. MicroPython is used by the BBC Microbit or a generic Python coder. Coding development environment. So in any case, right now we're just using CircuitPython, so that is a-okay. So we got that step out of the way, so we're all good. So next we actually need to get CircuitPython on our microcontroller. So first thing to do is to download CircuitPython from circuitpython.org. Now, this depends on the hardware you're using. Right now, I'm going to be using the Circuit Playground Express. Again, we have a variety of these in the classroom, so you just pick whatever is relevant to what you are using. Now, once this is installed on the board, it doesn't need to be done again, so you wouldn't have to do this each time we have an assignment, but if we're switching hardware between uses, let's say we're using it for Arduino, or if Intro is using it using MakeCode, we might have to make some adjustments. So, in any case. So once we click, we end up at the download site for the board that we're going to be using. So we just want to go over here to the latest stable release. Download that file now. I'm just going to move this to the desktop for now, just to simplify things a bit later. Yeah, so we now have the file and we can progress. Now, so far I've been using the generic CircuitPython installation procedures. If you want, there's also a link down here to usually the board overview from Adafruit as well. And this is dedicated to the particular board that you're installing on. So in this case, for the Circuit Playground, the instructions are a little more tailored to that. So when you're doing this yourself, that might be a good approach, just so it shows the right buttons to press and maybe goes through some of the quirks. So that's definitely an option for you when you're doing it. Since we're going to be trying to keep this generic, I'll just stick with the original version. So we have that installed, great. So we now have the file. The next part is to bring up what's called the bootloader for the device. And essentially this involves plugging the device in and then pressing the reset button either once or twice, depending on the board, in order to bring up bootloader mode. So just plug in the device, hit reset, just to show for this particular case, for the Circuit Playground, the reset button is right here in the middle. So you plug it in, lights start flashing, and then you press it, and then green lights come up. So that's what we're looking for. Again, on your whatever board you're using, it might be in a different location, but it will clearly be labeled reset. Once you do that, you'll note here there's now a drive that has appeared called cplayboot. That has basically whatever the current file on there is, some information, just pretty much basic stuff for now. So we're now in bootloader mode. We have everything there. So our next step is to drag our CircuitPython file that we had here and drag it into cplayboot. So drag it in, pause. Note on a Mac, it will give you the angry not ejected properly. That happens quite frequently in this case. And unlike a regular device, this isn't a big deal. It's pretty much normal. It thinks it's a keyboard, that's cute. So don't worry about that. So now you'll notice that the drive is labeled Circuit Pi. So that is a good sign. And we'll now see that it looks a little different. So there's code, um, library, and again, a few other little helper files. So we're now in a good spot. So if we now scroll back up to the top of the page, to the navigation menu, so we just installed CircuitPython. That was it. So pretty easy to go there. The next part about the CircuitPy drive, we don't need to worry about that unless we have multiple CircuitPython devices controlled by the same computer at the same time. So we don't, so we can move on. So we can go straight to creating and editing code. We've already installed Mu, so now we can bring it back up. Note that the device is now plugged in. It's registered by the computer CircuitPy. So now when we open the Mu editor, note that there's no longer the complaint about it not having a device to connect to. So it's the setup is very easy. It recognizes devices very, very quickly. If you've worked with the Arduino IDE, sometimes there's a bit more fussiness regarding finding the right port, but that's pretty much good to go for there. Okay, so you can either start coding from scratch. Usually there's a little basic example where you are controlling an LED and making it blink. So we can just copy and paste that in, take that out, paste it in. Now, as far as saving the file, you can save the file to your own computer. It's just a regular Python file in order to have it for reference later. That being said, if you actually want to run it on the device, you have to save it in CircuitPy and save it as code.py. Again, if you want to save a backup to your own computer so this doesn't get overwritten, that's probably a good idea, but for just testing, this is fine. But again, going forward, anytime you want to load something on the device, you have to make sure you're in CircuitPy and save the file as code.py so that it knows what to execute. Replace the file there, and now it's saved. One thing to note about CircuitPython is that as soon as you save a file in the Mu editor, it already saves it and then goes through the procedure to start running the program. So it does its own reboot. All of that is already handled automatically. That's one of the nice parts about CircuitPython in terms of ease of use. So as soon as you hit save, you should start looking over at the device. In this case, we're not really going to discuss a whole lot about what this program is doing at the moment. We'll get to that when we talk about LEDs and actuators. But essentially, it is having the built-in red LED on the board flash on and off every half a second. So as soon as you hit save, you should see a little red light start flashing. Again, every half second. If you just want to make sure that it's really run, you could take these 0.5s, change those to 2 seconds, hit save, and now if you look at the board, your own board, obviously at home, you should see the blinking now occur at a different pace. So if you did that, then it worked. So congratulations, you have your first program that you wrote installed on the device. So one last bit of bookkeeping that we should do is to get some libraries on the device. Libraries are a collection of files that really do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Essentially, instead of having to deal with low-level commands with a sensor, what Adafruit has done is write these collections that make these really easy to call functions that essentially do the hard work. So now you just have to ask for the information you want without having to go into nitty-gritty details. So we'll go to CircuitPython libraries, download the bundle version that matches the CircuitPython that you downloaded. So we downloaded CircuitPython 5, so we need bundle version 5.x. So download that file. So that is just a zip file, and after we open that up, so at this point in time, you'll see two folders. One is examples, which we'll get to in a second, and the other is lib, which contains the actual libraries. So if you had a large microcontroller, something like an M4 with a lot of memory, then you might be able to just grab all of these and copy them over. If you don't have the ability to do that, or you just think that's wasteful, you can just grab the ones that you think might be relevant to you. So at the moment, since we're just using a Circuit Playground, which has its own built-in sensors, I'm just going to grab that and copy that over. So let's go Circuit Playground. You drag that into the lib folder over here. So look inside, and the library is now installed. Again, it's not just specific to the device. If you have other sensors that you would like to drop in, if you would like to push things to the internet, they have files for that. Sound control, motor control. There's a whole bunch. This capacitive touch sensor. So any sensor that is supported, you can grab that library and use it to make your life a lot easier. So that library is now installed. So those are what go on the actual device. There's also examples, and these are generally paired with the libraries, and these basically tell you just a sort of a simple example of how to use the functionality in there. So right now we're in Circuit Playground, so let's find one that looks interesting. So let's say we want to look at the temperature. Let's grab this one. Text that it's fine for now. So we'll grab that code, go over to Mu, replace what we have, hit save, and that's now running. Now this particular one shows the temperature, what is called the plotter. We'll get to that later. But if we look at it, it's starting to pick up temperature measurements. If we look at the actual code, let's drag this down, we see there's the temperature, and then the temperature multiplied by 1.8 plus 32, so Fahrenheit. So it looks like the teal line is in Celsius and the green line is in Fahrenheit. So if I were to breathe on this, they're pretty subtle there, but there's a definite increase as I breathe on it. So just to show you guys that it is picking stuff up. All right, so that's going to be it for now. So first off, we got the Mu editor downloaded and installed. Next up, we got CircuitPython installed on the microcontroller itself. We were then able to take a program in Mu and send that onto the device, showing the process where you literally load and restart the program by just saving it as code.py onto the Circuit Playground itself. And then to expand functionalities, we saw where the libraries were. And again, to enable those, you just drag and drop into the lib file on the device. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Libraries go here under lib. You just save any new code as code.py and it runs automatically. So it's actually really easy. Yeah, so after this, we'll start getting into more of the underpinnings of wiring and coding and all that fun stuff. But as far as getting positioned ready to go, we are done. Thanks a lot.